It is Dom time. Was that a technical knockout or a full knockout by Trump? When you give him an audience that he can play off like the audience last night, and you got to give CNN credit, they allowed that audience in there. Then you're going to see a performance like that was one of his better performances. Couple things. The contrast we should continue to make between Trump with Caitlin Collins, who I happen to think is very good, very tough. O'Reilly's here at 12:30. He thinks she debated Trump last night rather than asking questions. I like the style of both of them in that. And Trump came out the better. I'm going to give you some of the areas that are really important versus the more obvious ones last night. So on that, the only thing Trump may have done, I don't think in the end it matters, is there's a theory out there today that, again, we're going to go back to suburban women that Republicans need to win and their sensibilities around the Jean Carroll case. All right. And I think some of the stuff on Trump there was unnecessary. But where he hit a home run is something I'm going to keep on talking about. Yeah, Ukraine, the answer on that, fine. The answer on drill, baby, drill, we'll play that. Also fine. The comparison with Biden, of course. Biden couldn't go on Fox News Channel with the janitor in last 30 seconds. He'd be complaining, what kind of questions are these? You can imagine what it would be like. Give Trump that audience that's going to laugh and applaud a little bit, and he's on his game, big time. But the answer, and I'm going to play it, and Dan agrees, he put it together today, where Trump did very well, abortion. Now, you can see it every time I see Joshie Shapiro with this state legislature race over in Delaware. It's their go-to, and they're going to go to it again in 2024. And you're going to say, you're going to hear like Sean Hannity, somebody, aren't they tired of that? No, they're never tired of it. It's what they're going to do. And Ron DeSantis has boxed himself in. Trump's answer, he didn't condemn, but it certainly gave the flavor of, no, I'm not signing a federal ban on abortion. He also talked about, and this plays into a different angle with Trump, how overturning Roe v. Wade by the judges that were on the court, Trump didn't say, as I would or you might like, well, we send it back to the states. No, he talked about pro-life being able to negotiate better on this in the states. By that he meant, now it's not a question that Roe v. Wade is the law of the land and every state has to follow it. It becomes a question of all these debates. In Florida, they decided 6 weeks, heartbeat bill. That's the point he was making. But notice he didn't do what DeSantis did. He didn't do what any number of these Republicans did. He didn't say, oh, yeah, I like what Lindsey Graham is bloviating about. That guy, right? So what he did is he took a position that's popular with the general electorate. And at the same time, who did he alienate by this? Did he alienate you if you're pro-life last night? He just met with some of those pro-life groups who said they're not going to be supportive of him. Good. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go on this? What did Trump say on abortion that would alienate pro-life groups? Here's what he said with Caitlin Collins last night, cut 5C.
The way I look at it, I think it's very important to say this. I consider the other side to be radical because the other side under Roe v. Wade and other things, the other side, they're radical because they will. Remember the debate with Hillary Clinton? They said, rip the baby out of the womb at the end of the 9th month. They will kill the baby in the 9th month. If you look at that crazy governor of Virginia from the former governor, where he said, no, the baby will be born, and then we'll decide essentially whether or not to execute the baby.
But Mr. President, can we talk about what you would do if
these are the radical people. It's not the pro-life people that are radical.
But if you are reelected and you're back in the Oval Office and you get legislation to your desk, would you sign a federal abortion ban into law?
What I'll do is negotiate so that people are happy. But the fact that I was able, I'm so proud of it. We put 3 great justices on the Supreme Court. We have almost 300 federal judges on the Supreme Court.
So
Just to be clear, and she went back to, again, are you going to sign the federal ban? He's not going to do a hypothetical there. Now, contrast that with where DeSantis has placed himself. And I think Trump gets it. I'm delivering on pro-life promises. We've stopped Roe v. Wade, and now it resides in the states. No, I'm not going to go with these outlier pro-life groups. Sorry, that want him to say I'm going to ban abortion, no exceptions, and all the rest of it. That is exactly the type of approach Republicans can have. Now, Trump does it in his own style there, et cetera, but that's the type of approach I'd like to see. And I wonder if you agree on that. All these other things are great, but the issue that wounds Republicans, we saw it in the midterm. People say, well, look at every other issue. Look at Fetterman. How in the world do we lose to this? Take a look at the suburban vote. Take a look at the number of younger women who turned out this time in the midterms that usually don't. Trump is right in the sweet spot of America and tactically, in his own style, not giving up anything here. Again, I'm tired of hearing the election of 2020 and January 6th stuff, but that's what CNN led with. They're the ones that put all that out there first. They could have avoided that. They could have combated with Trump on any number of other issues. The border, for example, they could have led on that. They could have debated that with him, but they want to go back and forth on it. Why lead with the other two? Because that's their instincts. That's where they want to go. So he, of course, is going to dwell on that stuff. I'd rather he didn't. And I'd rather with the Gene Carroll thing, he'd be more sensitive on that. Yeah, I'll say it. Simply because we're winning on everything else. You don't want some issue that's so flagrant in the minds of the voters that we need. So on the abortion issue here, he's talking exactly in the manner that he should. All right, now we got Judge Jeanine coming up early time today. I'll give you the side question too. Judge Jeanine's got a new book, Crimes Against America, the left's takedown of our republic. And in here, she leads with her first indictment, Dan. And she indicts for each chapter. Each chapter has an indictment. Hunter Biden's only second. She indicts on the border first. O'Reilly is here. And I have a story coming out of Conestoga High School that even for what goes on with the equity movement in the suburbs and all that, that you will not believe. You're going to hear it here first, and we'll break it. It's shameful. By the way, who is a 1979 proud graduate of Conestoga High School? I'll give you that answer coming up. Think Thursdays at 4 o'clock. That might give you a clue. All right. Judge Jeanine Pirro is next. We'll talk with her about her new book, Crimes Against America, Trump. What's the secret sauce of the five? That show is the most successful show now, and at times, even with Tucker there, in cable. What is it that people are now starting to try to duplicate it? I'll ask her, who out there could be the Jeanine Pirro of the five if you had another panel? All right, 855-839-1210. That's how you get him with Dom on Talk Radio 1210. All right, Judge Jeanine Pirro, one of the biggest public faces of law enforcement, of legal acumen that you're going to see anywhere, has a new book out, Crimes Against America, The Left's Takedown of Our Republic. And Dan, I told you page 109. I want to go all the way to page 109 to start with because it brings it all home here. Hey, Judge, welcome in. Congratulations on a great book. And here locally, page 109 of your book is Quite a Pleasure with Larry Krasner.
How are you?
Good.
Larry Krasner, my not favorite DA, put in by George Soros in an effort to release the criminals and punish the victims while literally immobilizing the police. It is a commentary on what is going to be happening all across America, and that's why I document it all in Crimes Against America. I mean, every day we see it, and it is frustrating as hell. And I'm curious as to whether other Americans see every aspect of the takedown that's occurring before our eyes.
You know what? They're busy paying inflation, taxes, and all that. And that's why this book is so helpful. And you don't fool around. You use the term indictment. I thought you might indict the Biden family first, but I guess the border. I saw you with Sean last night, and that was very fired up. It's just the boldness of this group in plain sight, and they're not that smart. The shell companies almost all have the same names that they're using.
Well, the amazing part of the Biden crime family is that, take it from me, I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA for over 3 decades. And, this is an organized criminal enterprise. Joe Biden is the front man. Hunter Biden is the bag man. Joe Biden goes into these foreign countries wrapped in the power and prestige of the American flag, and he uses that to make sure that his family gets money. And, in Romania, it was $1 million direct from a guy under indictment and subsequently convicted for corruption. And then he goes to Ukraine and he has the fortitude, the fortitude to actually say, if you don't get rid of the prosecutor on this case, investigating the company his son's on the board of, and of course, yet you know what? You're not getting $1 billion of American taxpayers' money. Well, who the hell are you to leverage my taxpayer dollars so that your son could run free as a member of the board of trustees of Burisma? And that's what he did. He was the front guy, and Hunter was the bag man. And, I got to tell you, George Santos just got indicted in New York for 13 counts. He's a congressman and apparently lied his way, whatever. He's presumed innocent, and whatever happens, happens. I'm a prosecutor. You go where the facts take you. They indicted this guy in like 2 months, 13 federal charges. Hunter Biden, it's been 6 years, and they can't figure out what to indict him for. I could write the indictment right now, just like my book, Crimes Against America, is an indictment of what's going on in this country. You've got Hunter Biden, who lied on a pistol permit application, and his father is a guy who hates guns, and Hunter takes a gun and it gets thrown away in a trash can near a school, and nobody can figure out how to indict him for it. How about Farah? Paul Manafort spent years in solitary confinement for being a lobbyist in foreign countries. We know that Hunter took $10 million from these foreign countries.
Judge,
and by the way,
go ahead. Judge, 9 members of the family, including the grandkids, including the sister-in-law / lover, including the current wife of Hunter Biden and the former wife, not the stripper, though, that we know of.
Yeah. Well, and that's the sad part about this. Joe Biden is supposed to be so empathic. He has feelings and all this happy horse nonsense. The truth is they've got a 7th grandchild and they won't recognize it. They've got a Christmas stocking for 6 grandchildren and the dog, but they don't have one for the 7th grandchild. This guy, Hunter Biden's not only a dirtbag, he's a deadbeat. And the truth is that the Bidens don't even recognize their own blood. That's how callous they are. But let me tell you why so many Bidens are sharing in this $10 million. You know why? Because they can't put the money in 1 or 2 accounts. It's too much money, $10 million. So it's the kids, the grandkids, the sister-in-law, the lover, the ex-lover, the other lover. And the sad part, and I just have to say, I never liked this guy, but whatever. Louis Freeh was the head of the FBI. the director of the
Yep.
FBI
Yep.
gave Joe Biden's grandson or grandchild $100,000 in a trust so he could join Hunter in a business. That was so that he could share in these monies, the head of the FBI.
Well,
No
Judge,
surprise.
I've had him on, and I'm surprised. You know better. I didn't have direct contact with the Penn State thing at all. I thought
Yes.
Louis Freed was straight up and all, but you're right. He's drawn into
Yeah.
this. He's part of this whole enterprise.
And that's why it's been so successful, because the swamp is deep. One hand washes the other. I've watched it. You know, as a young kid, a young prosecutor, you know, I believe in truth, justice, and the American way. And I've watched the federal prosecutors who become the federal judges, who then give monitorships and get millions for their pals in the U.S. attorney's offices. And then they get appointed to do this investigation or that investigation. And then they start lobbying. I mean, it is an incestuous group that doesn't care. And that's why 51 CIA directors, not directors, but deputy directors and some,
Exactly.
they came out and they said, well, we'll lie for Joe Biden so he has a talking point in the debate with Donald Trump. Are you kidding me? What happened to truth, justice, and the American way?
Well,
you want to lie for a deadbeat? This guy's 80 years old. He doesn't even know what direction he's walking in.
we're talking with Jeanine Pirro, Judge, as her new book, Crimes Against America, and a full-throated defense of the police. But in addition to that, right on point with what's going on at the border today. I mean, this is ripped right out of the pages of your book.
Yeah. Yeah, we are no longer a sovereign nation. We are a globalist landing spot with benefits for anyone who wants to come in. Come one, come all. We don't give a damn. If you're MS-13, if you got a record, we don't care what you've done. Come on in and share in the cornucopia of benefits that every taxpayer is paid for. Every one of your listeners works hard or, you know, is in a position where they've had to sacrifice. No, they're not going to do that. Title 42 is up today. 5 million illegals so far in 2 years, 4 million with 1 million gotaways. I guarantee you in the next 2 years, there'll be 10 million more. And so when they say, oh, the Republicans, they're going to cut this and they're going to cut that, nobody has to cut anything. First of all, that's a lie. But no one has to cut anything, because if you saturate Medicaid and Medicare with all of these illegals, there's not going to be enough for Americans.
No,
I mean,
without a doubt. Judge, why I have you here, I asked listeners a question in addition to your book. I don't know how long you've been permanent on the 5, but boy, your permanency in that role, what's the secret sauce of the 5? My wife loves it, and she doesn't follow politics that much, but you're one of the pivot points there, along with Jesse and Gutfeld. But it's really, it was great, but it's taken off to new levels where arguably it has the biggest audience in cable.
Yeah, it does. It does. And in 2022, and let me say thank you, and thank you to your wife also. In 2022, we were the #1 show on all news cable. And, you know, the only show on cable that beat us, and I read this in an article, was Yellowstone. I was like, gee, Yellowstone. I loved Yellowstone. You know, can I meet those people?
Absolutely.
You know?
Well,
yeah.
Judge, continued success, and thank you. Crimes Against America, the left's takedown of our republic, available all over the place, and also on the 5. It seems like you do a lot of prep work for the 5, though. We heard you had blocked out 6 hours before just getting ready.
Well, yeah, I do a good 4 hours of preparation. You know, I mean, it's a bright group, and I think that's why so many people are interested. But yeah, you know, I've always been a student, and I will be until the day I die. And let me tell you something, the chances of me retiring are slim to none. I mean, there's so much to fight for. And this country is a great country. We can't let it go.
Absolutely. Judge, thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Judge Jeanine Pirro here on Talk Radio 1210. Notice, Dan, I didn't go down memory lane too much in the book and bring up being on the Montel Williams show together. I'm sure the judge would have remembered that.
I feel like she seems like she has an absolutely incredible memory. I wouldn't be surprised if she did.
Yeah, I should have brought that up.
Yeah.
All right. So it's 855-839-1210. Overall, on the Trump performance last night, particularly the answers on abortion, the answers on the economy, drill, baby, drill. A friendly audience there. Trump played to it exceptionally well. The only thing they'll pull out of this, the other side, will be trying to play up some of the Jean Carroll stuff trying to convince suburban women you can't vote for this guy for that. You got to vote against all your other interests. I don't think that's going to work as easily this time around. It doesn't seem to be the case. Here's President Trump last night when asked about, when asked about the economy. All right, it was a friendly question. Cut 5E.
Hi, thank you so much for coming to New Hampshire to answer our questions. My question is regarding the economy. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the prices for everything skyrocket. From food to gas to utilities and insurance costs, many people's bills are up several $100s a month, including mine. If elected president again, what is the first thing you would do to help bring down the cost to make things more affordable?
Drill, baby, drill.
Say it was an enthusiastic crowd there for him. He could have said anything there, and it would have gone that way. All right, let me give you the side question today. Then I want to tell you about this local story. Who is it that is a 1979 graduate of Conestoga High School? Because I'm going to tell you about something going on there that I don't even know if this guy, well, he probably would be in favor of it. Who graduated from there that's prominent here, particularly Thursdays on the Dom Giordano Post show? Yes. Thank you. The 1979 graduating class, the most honorable member, as far as we can tell, of Conestoga High School. It gives me great pride to say it was Larry the K, Larry Krasner, graduated from Conestoga. Now, Conestoga is in the news because a source gave this to us yesterday. FIRE, the great Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, has gone after them, along with the students who run the newspaper. Apparently, and if you know about this, Dan and I were talking about, it sounds like a great tradition that, and it's a big-time paper. We talked about Conestoga before because of a dad and some of the complaints of indoctrination there. So the student newspaper says their final coverage of the graduating class, they actually put it big time in saying the student newspaper covers each class, the history of that class, what did they do in that school? And the final thing is a great tradition. They put out a map. They even sell them at the graduation, apparently, that shows where each kid will be next year, like military or Dan Borowski University.
What an awesome idea.
Yes.
It's such a cool, it's so cool just to know where all your friends are going to be ending up.
Yes.
And it's hard to keep track. I remember back in my high school days, asking people where they were going and trying to remember who's going where, and to have that kind of resource in front of you so you can almost keep in touch with your friends to a degree too is also very valuable.
Yeah, it's just a cool thing. A map of anything I like, with each point where they'll be, and maybe one has more dots than the other. I don't know where Conestoga grads go. Maybe they'll be working for Larry Krasner someday. But anyhow, this is not good at the school, though. One girl, even though it's voluntary, I want you to know it's voluntary, meaning you don't have to tell them what you're going to do next year. One girl thinks she's not going to too good of a college. She said she would be mortified if her peers saw what college they plan to attend. Then she broke down and crying to her guidance counselor.
What?
Yeah, this poor little girl. So anyhow, the principal and others there had put the kibosh on this. They said, in the name of equity, 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 that's right, you can't be doing these maps. The district may not pay to print the year's final issue of, it's called The Spoke, if it included the map. They said that's to support or promote the student destination map. The map does not align with the district's equity goals. Man, you talk about an indictment of exactly what equity is. Well, this girl's not going to Harvard. You may be. So we're not going to let the world know that. Even though we're not going to let the world know she's not going to that. And she's still in there bawling and crying. Equity goals. This story, even for what's going on in the suburbs, takes your breath away. Notice how they ruin everything. A great tradition. I don't know if another school does that. Of putting together a map that shows you the accomplishments. I know, Dan, at graduations, I've spoken at one, but at several of them, they put together, uh, Catholic schools do this usually, how much scholarship money they won. You know, it impresses the parents. You pay for this. We got $1 trillion. Might be with inflation, that might be doable.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can be doing that. But the principle here, the editorial board, no school resources used to support or promote the senior destination map because the map does not align with the district's equity goals. It highlights individuals who can afford more prestigious colleges, and that one student cried to their guidance counselor out of concern of over being judged if their peers saw what college they plan to attend. And it gives they're going to be on at 1:30 fire. But think about that. Just think about what we've come to. And it's voluntary. If you don't want to put, where you're going to be in the dot with your name on it, what a cute idea. What a nice idea. What a keepsake. They actually sell it. Progressives, equity. Notice it's not equality. Everybody has an equal chance. Well, nobody has an equal chance. Notice what she said. Well, they have more money. That's why they're going there. Maybe it's not that. Maybe they succeeded. Who knows? Maybe they have a scholarship. Not under equity. The marching orders are everybody is going to be equally miserable. Excellence is not going to be shown because some girl will cry to the guidance counselor.
The guidance counselor needs to have a backbone and say, well, this is why you should have gotten better grades.
Yes,
I mean, when I was in school only 15 years ago, that's where if I went crying to the guidance counselor saying, oh, I don't want anyone to know what school I'm going to, even though it's going to be all over. I can't hide it for 4 years. I don't want anybody to know because it's embarrassing. My guidance counselor would look me in the face and say, Dan, this is why I told you to get better grades.
There you go.
That's how you get into a better school is you get better grades. And I'm sorry, like my entire school, it's been driven into me that college is where you need to go. So now they're going 180 on that old,
Well, look who their honored graduate is, Dan. Larry Krasner. All right, Bill O'Reilly's peeping in early. He's ready to go. He's ready to break down what happened with Trump last night, Caitlin Collins, etc. We'll get to Bill here in just a second. Mother's Day this Sunday. Get to the nearest Captain Chucky's, and right now in stores are 2 new delicious ravioli varieties to select from. Captain Chucky's partners now with the Vera Pasta Company, the banging crab, and the lobster ravioli. I'll tell you, these, in addition to the crab cakes and all that, they're unbelievable. They're always hooking up with something else. Dessert, soup, sides, appetizers, the Dom roll. Try the shrimp. The Gulf shrimp is always a huge hit, particularly this weekend. Order a shrimp tray, crab cakes, and visit one of Captain Chucky's 18 big locations. Say hello to the crew in Newtown Square, the Westtown Farm Market, Mullica Hill Farm Market, Jason and Bridget Latier in Jameson, and Tony and Jamie Parson with their newest store in Cinnaminson. The Vogelsang family, Runnymede, New Jersey. Ocean City, Sea Isle City are open Friday and Saturdays, noon till 5. See Chris and Donna Ryan in Ocean City, and the McCann family in Sea Isle. And this Friday, this Friday, May 12th, tomorrow, Avalon reopens. Visit WeLoveCrabCakes.com. All right, always a good day when Bill O'Reilly stops by, but particularly somebody who has interviewed Trump, knows Trump in and out, and somebody who has really had the toughest interview of all, I think. I'd say President Obama, when he was president, brutally tough because he bloviates and it's hard to interrupt. Let's go to Bill O'Reilly, the book out right now, Killing the Witches, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts. No, that's upcoming, Dan, right? That's upcoming shortly there. All right. Let's go to Bill. Hey, Bill, when's the next book out, Killing the Witches?
Yeah, September 26th, we got Killing the Legends, Ali, John Lennon, Elvis Presley on sale now. And then in September, The Horror of Salem, Massachusetts will descend on the nation. So about an hour ago, I got a call from Donald Trump. And he's very pleased with what happened last night in New Hampshire. And we chatted for about 10 minutes. And he did what he wanted to do, which was steamroll the CNN moderator, Caitlin Collins, and pretty much line up the grievances that he has and he believes that most Americans have. That he thinks is going to propel him back into the White House. So he did what he wanted to do last night.
Bill, would you advise, if I had your honor there with him and your ability, and I know you tell him exactly what you think, the grievance stuff, yeah, the audience last night, and they started it, they asked it, but there was much stronger stuff there. It's obvious, Bill, he knows that DeSantis, you and I have talked about this, has stepped in it on the abortion issue. And Trump is in the sweet spot last night, the way he handled talking about abortion. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, abortion, you can't win on it, not with the country being divided. And there's so many different aspects to the case. I thought his strongest answer was when he said he wanted to stop people from getting killed. Ms. Collins was trying to bait him into saying that he favored Russia. And that was the problem with Caitlin Collins, who I think has talent, by the way. And she's 31 years old. So, Giordano, you and I both know when we were 31, we're lucky we weren't in the penitentiary. Okay? So this is a young woman. Yeah. And she is not at a level, and I'm saying this with all due respect to her, where she can handle somebody like Donald Trump. So you have to understand a few things if you want to be successful in interviewing Donald Trump, and I've done it scores of times. You have to know that he has his greatest hits, and he's going to get those out no matter what you say or do, okay? It's like when you buy a ticket to see the Turtles, they're going to sing Happy Together, Dom.
So what do you do during that?
You can do to stop it.
You just let it go.
You get it. You may not like Happy Together. You go, they're singing it. Okay? So you get Trump in, he's going to say the election was rigged.
Right.
He's going to say that it was a beautiful thing for people to protest on January 6th. They just went too far. He's going to say Putin is smart.
Yeah.
He's going to say he's never made a mistake in his entire life.
Right.
That's what Donald Trump is going to do. All right. And there's nothing Caitlin Collins or Bill O'Reilly or anyone short of God can do to stop him. So when you are in that situation, if you want to get as much information as possible, which is the goal of a moderator for a town hall, her job is not to be a prosecutor. It's to be a moderator. You have to accept that. So I had to accept when I interviewed, you mentioned Barack Obama, that Mr. Obama was not going to give my view of life equal weight to his. He wasn't going to consider what I believed. And that was fine with me. So my job was to get as much information. I'll give you an example. At the time, Obama was supporting the Muslim Brotherhood for leadership in Egypt. And I just looked at him and go, those are tough boys. So, I mean, why are you doing that? And it turned out that they had to be thrown out. the Muslim Brotherhood in less than a year. Okay. But I didn't expect him to say, Bill, you're right. They are. I shouldn't support them. Did Caitlin Collins really think that Donald Trump was going to go, yeah, I made a mistake about the election. It wasn't rigged. So why waste everybody's time, right? And that's what these pinheads will never understand. And then we see the headline in the Associated Press this morning, Trump continues his lies about the 2020 election. Okay, Associated Press, do I see a headline that says Joe Biden continues his lies that the border is secure?
Right.
Do I see that headline? No, I don't. Do I see the headline, Bobby Kennedy Jr. continues his lies when he says the COVID vaccine causes autism? Do I see that headline? I do not. These are opinions that these three men hold. Fallacious? Sure. But it is stacked against Trump. But Trump uses that for his benefit in the primary process. And I talked to him about that today. I said, look, I think you got the primaries locked up unless something bad, more bad happens to you. Okay. But the general election, I would think he would have to change his tune a little bit, but I'm not confident that would happen.
Yeah. So, Bill, how did it seem talking to him? I'm glad you mentioned that. The grievance stuff and all, it worked last night. He had a friendly audience. She started it. She was prosecuting. But long term, there's so much else he has to offer. What I'm saying to you, I've been talking with listeners a lot on the abortion issue and DeSantis. The way Trump handles this, and he brought in negotiation. He changed the narrative. And you're right, on Ukraine, that was a much different answer than a lot of politicians would have gotten locked into. Why not just go with that? Or does he just have to scratch the other itches and he's just going to do it, even though I don't think it helps him?
He doesn't care about the abortion issue. I'll say with all due
Right.
respect, it's not on his spectrum. He's not going to spend any time on it. He believes, and this is what he believes, Dom, that most voters are so angry with the state of the country that they will vote for him even if they don't like him, because they're getting desperate. Now, I don't know whether that assessment is true or not, but that's what he believes. So he's going to campaign on the country's going to hell, and I'm the only one that can fight the devil. That's what he's going to do. And then he'll recite a litany 50,000 times over and over and over. But if you are a good interviewer, and Caitlin Collins are going to send her a free membership to the O'Reilly Summer Interview Camp, where I can look. I learned from Mike Wallace the best. Okay, Caitlin does not have a mentor because there's no one at CNN, literally no one, who can do that kind of a difficult interview. So there's no one there. But if I had tutored her before she got out on that stage in New Hampshire last night, she would have done 1,000 times better. But with a caveat, Caitlin Collins was there partially to prove her mettle, METTLE, to the left.
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted to do. She didn't succeed. The left is just scorching CNN today. But she tried to do it, and that was a big mistake.
Do you see this as a mistake for CNN?
No. CNN has got nowhere to go but up. And the fact that Trump went on there and they had Republicans from New Hampshire in the audience, that's a positive for CNN. The far left has killed that network, killed it. MSNBC can survive. They never prosper, never have. In 25 years. Never have they prospered. But they can survive off Comcast, all right, and off the feed that comes in from NBC News and that structure. But CNN is got its lowest ratings in history now. And they've got to try to win back some traditional Americans.
Yeah, I think it's a
So
win.
that's
I
why
think
they
it's a
did
win
what they
for
did.
them. I think They made mistakes. We know that, but this is a win for Trump. It's a win for them. Bill, Mitch McConnell might be retiring. I don't buy it, but I'm asking you to make your day. What do you think?
I don't have any regard for Mitch McConnell because he killed Kate's law.
Yeah.
And that was my law that said if you are a felon, foreign national in the United States, and you get deported and you come back, you get a minimum 10 years in a federal penitentiary just for coming back. That should have been enacted after Kate Steinle was killed in San Francisco. It's the right thing to do. It would have cut crime drastically. McConnell would not put it up for a standalone vote. Why? Because he's not. This is why. I'm not going to let that punk O'Reilly tell me what to do.
Exactly.
So, and I used your clip of your interview with McConnell. I used it on the No Spin
I know
News,
you
by
did.
the way.
And we noted that. We went big time. Thank you. It was an honor. Nice picture,
I mean,
too.
listen,
Yeah.
you're one of the few with the guts to go up against the turtle. And, the turtle go, I don't think Bill O'Reilly understands. Okay, if I don't understand, Mr. Turtle, why wouldn't you ever come on for an interview with me ever in your entire life? Because I dissemble you in about a minute and a half. That's how long it would take me. So I hope he retires. I hope he goes back to his pond and has a nice rest of his life.
Oh, good stuff today, Bill. Books for Mother's Day. Can people still get the book in time for Mother's Day?
Sure. Look, we got great stuff on Team Normal for Mom. Great T-shirts. Team Normal is for people who love their country. Want to see it improved. I think we all do want to see that. But Team Normal, we got the gear on BillO'Reilly.com for Mom and Dad. Beautiful shirts for Mom. And then if you buy anything in our store, you get free bumper stickers that say, atheism, nothing there. Because I saw a bumper sticker on the Mass Pike that said, religion, fake news. And I said, I can do that. I can stick up for people who are believers. So we have these great bumper stickers. So anyway, we want everybody to go in and to BillO'Reilly.com, go to the store, have fun. We got lots of stuff in there. And it's always good to talk to you, Dom. Thanks very much.
All right, Bill. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Thanks
Cheers.
as always. All right, Dan, today it was even more than usual. My God. Picture O'Reilly. It's kind of like, not The Voice. What's the other one? Not the show that's The Voice.
American Idol?
No, or is it The Voice?
Which one? Where they have the blind turn around the seats?
Yes, that's
the Voice.
Yeah, The Voice. When they're tutoring them, they're good. They got some talent. The Bill O'Reilly camp and Caitlin Collins is there in full regalia.
I could see it.
Yeah,
I'd love to see it.
All right,
he was really good.
Oh yes.
Have you noticed a shift in his personality?
Oh yeah,
he
much
seems,
more punkier.
Yeah. He seems like he's let his shoulders down a little bit.
Yeah, well, particularly when it comes on here. Yeah. All right, so give me a reaction to that. Let me give you the side question today. Today is National Twilight Zone Day, right?
Yeah.
There's a day for everything. So we're talking after the show yesterday, and we thought something that is woven into American culture, like the Twilight Zone. It hasn't been on in broadcast TV in 60 years or something, but Rod Serling, the whole deal. Everybody knows the Twilight Zone. You have to be culturally illiterate not to have heard that.
It's such a,
fixture.
Fixture that there's a song by Golden Earring that I think is, a reference to it. That's what we're playing in the background here.
Yeah, something from a book, a film, TV, even music that you think is that type of fixture. All right, I'm going to take off. As good as The Office is, it's not a fixture like Seinfeld. The number of expressions, the number of situations, expressions, yada, 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 on forever from Seinfeld are unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been woven into America's culture like none other. I mean, there's references that we always make to Seinfeld.
Exactly.
I'm going to do one that you might disagree with, but I really think there's a lot that has kind of taken off into other realms of Americana, memes from this show and such. How about the Howard Stern show?
Oh, well, the previous.
Well, the previous iteration. I mean, when the guy, he was being listened to everybody here in Philadelphia. He had that at a funeral at one point. He was huge, and everyone was referencing stuff that he had to say. And I think he was woven into the fabric of America at
He's
one point, but
unweaving very rapidly.
he is
Yes.
unweaving, and I feel like he's kind of, yeah.
Imagine if I had been attacked by the Howard Stern of that day, Dan. I was expecting this would just be the viciousness, etc. And there was a few people on Twitter saying a couple of nasty things, maybe two. You would have been scorched beyond belief.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm going to take
yeah,
also
go
a very odd one off. Fiddler on the Roof.
that is an odd one.
Yeah, but it's so in Jewish culture, a self-officiating comedy, like when you make fun of yourself, was very big. And Fiddler on
Right.
the Roof, I took a course in Jewish studies and Jewish media, was the culmination of the humor that became Seinfeld, and so
Right.
much that we know of American humor comes from Tevier and Fiddler on the Roof. So I'm going to put on Fiddler on the Roof as well as woven into American culture.
Interesting answer. All right, that's the side question. You heard O'Reilly telling us, Dan, there's the headline, the call from Trump today. I could just see Trump ask, how did I do? All last night into this morning. And again, O'Reilly didn't really take a position. My position is the grievance tour stuff, they did ask. True. That's not the strength of this. There's so many other things. Is that what you want still? Admit it. A lot of people do. They want to hear the oldies. They want to hear those type of hits. I think that's not going to move them forward. Yeah, with people that are already trumped up, they love it. But there were so many other. I can't come back to the abortion that no one's done a better job saying, hey, I'm pro-life, but I'm not going to be boxed in essentially like Ron DeSantis. By the way, DeSanctimonious, not a good nickname. They're flat. Need a better nickname for DeSantis there. Phone lines. Get in on the side question and overall the Trump performance last night at 855-839-1210. All right, let me remind you, if you have any kind of problem with your phone, technology, you're in the business world, you want an energy audit, or you're just saying, hey, great weather, I need a battery. Two big stores, Roy and his trusted advisors, batteries plus bulbs. They're in Mount Laurel on Route 73 and Northfield on Tilton Road. Batteries for boats, motorcycles, ATVs, and more. Matt Pierce. Now, Matt works with a fleet of vehicles, so he knows his stuff about batteries. He wrote this review. This place has batteries from cars to pickups, heavy-duty tractors. The owner comes out, gives great advice, and if they don't have it in, typically the next day they get it. It's all there for you to take care of anything. Don't give up on your phone, for example. Need your key and key fob duplicated. They do it for usually half the cost of a dealership. You reach them at 856-638-0778. Roy and his trusted advisors, give them a call now. I don't know what the problem is that you might have. These are the people that can really help you. 856-638-0778. President Trump.
Uh-oh.
Jimmy
Jimmy's gonna come
Matthews.
after you.
Jimmy, you better go down to CNN and lodge a complaint. Tell Caitlin Collins that the Dom Giordano show is correct. It is President Trump.
Hey, just want to make a comment, producer's comment.
Yeah.
YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. We're going to be staying live today till 1:15 because coming up next, we have Alan B. West joining us live in studio, and that will be broadcast on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@1210WPHT. Nothing better than having a visual to go along with this great audio. Head over there. Please like and subscribe.
And coming up in this hour, Dan, Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm not in full agreement with this. He wants to raise the voting age. Democrats want to have 10-year-olds voting, as we know. Well, maybe not, 9-year-olds. But he wants to raise it to 25. Or there are 3 exceptions to that. We'll get into it in the next hour. He's going to be here in studio in June. We plan ahead, the middle of June. At least that's what I believe. All right, so Colonel Alan B. West, Stan Casaccio, both have a big event tonight. And we'll talk with the colonel about all manner of things, including last night, the border, etc. Follow me on Twitter at DomShow1210. And as Dan said, if you haven't joined us on YouTube, how do they do it again, Dan?
YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. We've had the entire show on there so far. Dom, Judge Jeanine, if you want to rewind, Bill O'Reilly, and Minnie's Breakfast was also posted as well.
Absolutely. My spring collection is finally out there. I thought 81 degrees today, the first of the spring collection.
I like it.
We'll be seeing
Well,
a
good.
lot. Yeah, have another one tomorrow. All right, jump in right now here on Talk Radio 1210. All right. Rare that. All right, Dan, you got that feedback. Okay. Rare that we have guests in studio quite like this. Joining us is Colonel Alan B. West and his Sherpa here in Philadelphia. That would be Stan Casaccio leading him around town. Stan, good to see you again. And Colonel, it's been quite a while since we've seen in
It's
person.
so great to see you, Don.
I don't know if it was, no, it was one of the Seven Fishes. It wasn't the original Guardian of the Republic book out there at Valley Forge. But Stan, you have a big event tonight, and Colonel West is the keynote.
He's the keynote. He's also receiving the Phyllis Schlafly American Patriot Award, which for his outstanding service to the country, but just for his service and letting people know each day that we have to do something to protect the American dream. So he's a real patriot in our book. And
So we're at the Marriott in Conshohocken.
Marriott in Conshohocken, and we still have a couple of seats available. If people want to get over there, they can start at 5 o'clock, and they can jump in and meet Alan. And it's a great time. There'll be a lot of fireworks happening.
So, Colonel, what occupies your time mainly at this point, other than saving the country? I hope to save the
Just a
country.
little bit of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Well, Executive Director for the American Constitutional Rights Union. That organization was founded about 28 years ago by members of the Reagan administration. Edwin Meese, his Attorney General, was the founding board member, and Robert Carlson, who was really the one that wrote everything about the welfare reform, because they want to have a counterbalance to the ACLU. So the American Constitutional Rights keeps me busy because there's so much going on that's unconstitutional right now in the country. And then, of course, we have Steadfast and Loyal, a podcast that keeps me going and getting out.
Yeah, how do you like doing the podcast?
It is such a hoot. It's just great. I mean, just recently we had Jason Whitlock, Laura Logan on there.
Oh, you and Jason Whitlock. You might have to have the dump button there occasionally with Whitlock and some of the commentary.
It was a good time. And so those are the things. And just about a week and a half ago, I was down on the border, Kenny County, which is in between Del Rio and Eagle Pass, for about 4 days. And what's going on our borders is just wrong. It's criminal. It's horrific. The fact that you have kids down there that are, can't go out and play because they're worried about the high speed chases and bailouts and things of this nature are being snatched up by some cartel members. So we got to do better. And the sad thing is that today, and Judge Jeanine said it. We were listening to her interview coming in. The sovereignty of the United States of America is gone today, as of today. And when you look at Texas, I mean, you think of Texas, you would never think that Texas would be overrun. You think of Texas, 183 there standing on the ramparts of the Alamo.
Right.
But now we got millions of people just pouring into this country, and they're going to disperse all over, and it's going to cause even greater issues with fentanyl, greater issues with human and sex trafficking, and the crime and the gang violence that we're going to see all over the country.
One of the things you mentioned, too, slowly but surely, the big dread is we're not going to win a presidential election. If Texas ever goes blue, the math is not there. I don't care how many times we win Wisconsin and all that stuff. You can't win.
No, you can't win. And that's a big concern because we're in the last couple of weeks of our legislative session. You actually had a Democrat state representative that brought up a piece of legislation saying that the notice to appear that these illegals are getting should be used as identification so they can get a driver's license in the state of Texas. And if they get a driver's license in the state of Texas, you know what that leads to, them voting. So that has to be a big concern, especially when you look at all of our major urban population centers in Texas are controlled by the far left. We have, Soros DAs in Texas, in Dallas County, Travis County, Harris County, Bexar County, San Antonio, El Paso County, and even down in Corpus Christi. So Texas, the leftists had a very strategic plan in how they can go in, take over the urban population centers, and eventually it's just it's a population, it's a numbers game.
Well, staying on the border with Philadelphia, so to speak, that's leached over into Montgomery County, which the colonel probably wasn't coming here at that point years ago when it was the most educated, affluent, solidly Republican in the best sense of it. And now it's little Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's definitely the encroachment has been happening, and we're seeing crime move out this way. Montgomery County's had an increase in crime and everything else like that. Luckily, in where I live in the White Marsh area, they still respect the police in our areas. So the neighbors then and the people in Montgomery County, they're still very pro police officers. So that's a real big plus. And tonight, we're also going to be honoring the fallen heroes that have fallen in Philadelphia. We have Jimmy Binns, and I know you know Jimmy.
Oh, absolutely.
So
sure.
he's going to keynote.
Pro cop as anybody.
He's going to bring his motorcycle and he's going to.
Well, make sure that our esteemed guest goes nowhere near the motorcycle.
Don't worry about that.
His wife sent me an affidavit today saying she would sue me for having him on, and the word motorcycle was mentioned.
Well, Alan told me a funny story. He said, well, these guys came and took the bike,
yes,
and they restored it to auction it off. But after they restored it, he wanted to buy it back, and his wife said, "Geez, it really looks nice, but you're not buying it back."
No, exactly.
Yeah.
You're completely recovered from that? You feel completely recovered?
I'm always going to have some pain because it was very devastating for my upper body. My right shoulder was completely reconstructed. So that's going to be linked. But I'm alive, and no one walks away from a motorcycle accident at 75 miles an hour.
That was shocking when we heard that. We're talking with Colonel Alan West and San Casaccio here on Talk Radio 1210. Did you happen to see, because I know you were in transit, all President Trump on CNN last night?
Yeah, we sat and watched it.
And I don't know if you heard O'Reilly, who got the call from Trump today.
Yes.
And it is true that Caitlin Collins started it, or CNN did, by asking about 2020 election right out of the box in January 6th. But I'm in the camp that thinks the Trump base knows all that stuff to win new people over. How he answered on abortion. And I know you're very pro-life, but tactically, some of these pro-life groups, I'm not in favor of the federal amendment. Lindsey Graham, am I missing something?
No, you're not missing something. And as a matter of fact, I've spoken out about Lindsey Graham and also Tim Scott.
Right.
I don't know what's in the water down there for those South Carolina senators, but if the United States Supreme Court has ruled that this is not in the jurisdiction of the federal government,
right,
then the easy question is that it's not constitutional for us to deal with it. Let's deal with it at the states level, and let's support the states in doing what is possible, and let's make sure that the federal government is never involved in it. We've got to protect life. There's no doubt about it. We can find the right type of solutions in our respective states, but we cannot have a culture of death. I think that's the most important thing that we don't want to have in the United States of America. And furthermore, you want to talk about racist. Planned Parenthood was founded just so it could eradicate, undesirables and human weeds. That's what Margaret Sanger called black people. And since 1973, you're talking about over 20 million black babies have been murdered in the womb. So I think that that's a very strong issue, especially since you have a party always talking about racism.
Well, Margaret Sanger spoke at the KKK Women's Picnic.
Yes. I don't know how they ate barbecue with those hoods on their heads, but kind of got messy. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I thought Trump's answer last night, that's what I zoned in on, where unfortunately Ron DeSantis on the 6-week heartbeat bill signed in the dead of night. That's not where America is at this point right now.
But if it's what the people in his state.
Do they, though? Well, he knows better.
Yeah,
or you know better. You might know Florida better. Maybe they are.
And the same is passed in, heartbeat bill in Texas as well.
But if you're running for president, though.
If you run for president, now you have a national hat. You're not the governor of Florida. You have a national hat. And again, you have to understand that the Supreme Court has ruled this. And let's talk about constitutional governance. Let's talk about how we should not have bureaucratic agencies making rules because we're supposed to be a nation of law. So let's get back to that. Number one, the Supreme Court does not make law. The Supreme Court interprets the law, and they have done that. And so the abortion issue is settled. It's back down to the states. And guess what? That's why we have the 10th Amendment.
Do you feel comfortable with Trump's answer? A lot of listeners like it on Ukraine last night. Now, it was true. Caitlin Collins was trying to bait him into a situation there. Would you rather he have said, well, of course, I want the democracy in Ukraine, whatever we're calling it. But at the same time, I want people to stop dying.
Well, there are several points, and Stan and I talked about it. When first she asked him about, is Vladimir Putin a war criminal? He should very simply said, based upon definitions from the Geneva Convention, yes, he is a war criminal. Take me out of it. The next thing is that when you start talking about how do you define winning, well, winning is based upon what the people in Ukraine want for their country. Now, we have to understand that Ukraine was a sovereign nation until Barack Obama came along. Russia came in and took eastern Ukraine. They took Crimea, and now they're trying to finish the job under the administration of Joe Biden. You did not see any incursions under my administration or any moves from Russia. So we need to get back to Reagan's peace through strength and have a credible military deterrent that's not having drag queens going out and recruiting people in the Navy.
Look, on my list here for listeners is the drag queen thing in the Navy. And they didn't say the Army, but they say there are drag queen influencers in every branch of the military. You probably experienced that when you were in Iraq. There was a drag queen show and
Oh,
all that
yeah,
type of stuff.
right. I don't think so, Jack. We were worried about going out and swacking Al Qaeda and, those guys. Look,
Yeah.
people have to understand is that the Department of Defense is led by a civilian bureaucracy that's tied to the administration. So one of the things that if Donald Trump or whoever gets back into power, they're Republicans, they've got to clean out the bureaucratic administrative state down to the sixth or seventh, maybe even the eighth level.
Mhm.
Because it's not just about who's at the head of the cabinet. It's levels down, levels deep, and we did not do a good and effective job of that. Barack Obama purged the generals in the United States military, and a lot of the generals that are there now were the ones that advanced during the Obama administration, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, because those are political appointments, and people need to realize that. It is not about being selected for those promotions by a board of your peers.
And
Yeah.
and I just want to say she purged General Flynn. They purged General Flynn,
Mhm.
who knew what was going on. And if Trump does get back in and General Flynn is in a position, it's going down to the seventh and eighth level for sure.
Well, the last time we heard that, and I was going to say in the first Trump administration, I think he found out you really have to be dedicated to that
Mhm.
day after, just like with the wall.
hmm
Maybe in his mind, he thought building 500 miles of the wall would be a given. Maybe Democrats could stop a lot. Underestimate the power of the bureaucracy. And I think
Yes.
Trump going through it, once you were in Congress, you have a sense of it.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It makes you struggle for the slightest improvement.
Well, see, when you come out of the private sector, and Stan and I had a great conversation about this. You're a CEO. You
Right.
say whatever. It's like Pharaoh Ramses. So
Right.
let it be written. So let it be done. Now all of a sudden, you're in
Yeah.
a government bureaucracy, and you've got people down there, a GS 9 or 10, that can just throw a monkey wrench into what you're doing. So I think it's very important that we look at reforming the government employee system. We have to be able
Mhm.
to, get rid of these people because they have become ticks. And they have been there. They have gorged themselves. And if we're going to move on, we got to get away from a lot of this.
Would you ever consider going back into political life? You've been in political life in all kinds of manners, shapes, and forms.
I just want to be a servant to this republic, and I just want to be a guardian. And I don't know, what position God would have me to be in,
Mhm.
but I know right now I'm sitting here talking to you, the great Dom Giordano. I'm going to be hanging out with some great folks tonight. And so I think it's just important that as a paratrooper, wherever your feet land, you fight. That's
Yeah.
the bottom line.
Stan, how about you?
How about
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
Well, I've been
Yeah.
I've been in the thick of things with
At the Montgomery County,
with the
sure.
Montgomery County.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
frustration is that the leadership has really been not putting the message out. And Al and I've talked about this. The message is so important, and we're not getting down to those what you talked about the suburban moms and things like that. But Alan met a suburban mom, Angelina,
Mhm.
and Liz last night. They were just regular moms with kids, and they've become real mama bears. And this all happened within the last year or 2 years. So schools are important. They've got to get involved with getting good candidates for schools that can articulate the message, and that's one of the problems we have. It's at the lower level. It's at the precinct level when you have judge of elections and things like
Mhm.
that. The Democrats put a big play in controlling all those election places,
Right.
and that's where it starts. Plus, we need a commissioner. We need commissioners that clean the voter rolls, which is a big
Dan,
problem.
you had a question for the colonel?
Yeah, I have a couple questions for the
Okay.
colonel.
Well, one at
I'm
a
not
time.
talking to
Come on.
Dan. He's got that daggum Philadelphia Phillies jersey
Yeah,
on.
well,
He-
just for
and
you.
he knows I'm from Atlanta, so I
We'll
get
get
it.
we'll get to that in a second here. Yes.
No, I wanted you to dig into a little bit because I'm fascinated by this. Alan's scuba history. Where did this hobby come from? Why did he decide to get into scuba? I think it's related to the military experience. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, well, I was first scuba qualified when I was a cadet at the University of Tennessee. And, after retiring from the military, I decided I had enough jumping out of airplanes. I go in the opposite direction. And it's a lot more peaceful down there. And I just enjoy, scuba diving and, the beauty of the underwater world. So, COVID kind of put a little kink in things. So I like to go down to the Caymans and dive the walls down there. So we'll get back down to the Caymans. But South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach has some beautiful
I never
diving.
knew you were a paratrooper. In all these conversations, how many times have you jumped?
73.
All right, successfully 73.
Yes, I'm here.
I had a friend, we went to Ripcord, it's a local
Uh-huh.
place, and we were ready to jump after 8 hours of training, and they said, "Does anybody wanna go home? We don't have enough time." All of us raised our hands. I mean, I was all in. It was a pull with the instructor and all that, you
Yeah.
know, it's perfectly safe.
Yes.
Well, it's never.
So,
it
so
seems
question
like,
for
yeah,
Al. I mean,
yeah,
there's somewhat of an addictive nature to skydiving. I've heard once
yeah.
you go up once, you get the rush and want
You
to go
do.
up for again. But after 73 times and doing it as a job, after you finished in the military, was there a desire to go back up in the sky and jump again? Or
No, not really. The thing is that, when you see all those pretty, halo jumps and everything like that, the static line jumping, and the highest altitude I've ever done is 3,000 feet. You got 250 pounds of gear on you. There's nothing pretty about it. I mean,
Right.
with your main chute, your reserve parachute, your rucksack, your weapon, ammunition, all this stuff on you. So it is very physically exhausting now. And maybe I'll get into some sport jumping, but for right now, no. I like to have my feet on terra firma.
Absolutely. Where do we find all things Colonel Allen? And I'm thrilled to hear
Yeah.
a little bit more on the podcast type of thing as the host rather than the receiver of this.
Yeah, it's been fantastic.
That's good stuff. Does it take a lot of preparation for you, or do you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I want to make sure that we hold people's attention for that
right.
20 to 22 minutes. So, Steadfast and Loyal is the podcast. You can find it on YouTube and Rumble. Of course, you can find me on all the social media outlets except for TikTok because I do not support the Chinese Communist Party. And the ACRU.org is the American Constitutional Rights Union.
Talk radio. You're made for it. Someday we got to see you do that as the host. Definitely.
I got the
definitely.
face for it. So.
No, really.
By the
And-
way, his podcasts are great. Alan's podcast.
Well,
I
those are
saw the
huge
Jason
people,
Whitman.
yeah,
Jason is, as you know, is really
Right.
good, and it was a great one. Laura Logan was great too. Once you let her go, she just fires off all cannons.
Well, Stan, good luck tonight.
Thank you,
I
Don.
know it'll be a great
It'll be a
event
great
that you're
night.
putting on. And Phyllis Schlafly, just way before her time.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great woman.
The level of intelligence, et cetera, that brought about a different kind of women's
Yeah, her
movement.
book, A Choice Not an Echo, if anybody gets it, it's a real history on how presidents are picked by their parties. And she lays it all out, and it's very apropos even today. And you can see it, Choice Not an Echo.
Starts at 5 o'clock tonight, the
5
bar. It's
o'clock.
going to be a long bar before the speeches,
Let me tell you,
right?
the Right for Bucks band, which does rock
Right.
parody songs, we asked them to tone it down a little bit. But but if you want to have some laughs, these guys are really good.
5 o'clock tonight
5 o'clock,
starts over at the Marion and
Marion
Conshohocken. You can walk
There's
in and
there's a couple tickets still available. So
Okay.
if you're in there, please jump on and jump in, get to meet the Lieutenant Colonel and some other great people.
absolutely. Thank you, Colonel. Thanks
Always
for
a pleasure,
coming.
Don.
Pleasure
You
to
got
see
it.
you in studio and Stan too. We'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
Amo.
You never played golf.
I have never touched the golf
Oh,
club.
okay. Stan, we got to work him over.
I
No.
got a guy over
Yeah.
here. I like that. I like to hear that. Not the only one in the room anymore.
All right. A lot more coming up here on Talk Radio 1210.